This morning, I am the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. My pronouns are he and him, and I am the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. Welcome, everyone. And whether you're joining us in person or online, let us center ourselves for worship by taking a deep breath together. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice.
Welcome to Accotink. I'm Connie Diamant, and I'm the Worship Associate today. If you aren't new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people you haven't met or you haven't spoken to for a while? These people like you want to meet you and talk to you. Help us live up to our mission of being a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for all by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transition moments are open to new friendships. This means that your new best friend might be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to them before someone else does. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour online and in person immediately after the service. We're so delighted that you could join us today, and welcome.
So, are there any Wicked fans here today? Anybody? The premiere happened. We can't see it quite yet. I think it comes out on Friday, but the big premiere happened. So I wanted to let you know that, I kind of dressed for Wicked today, complete with my hair and everything. Either that or I just wanted to have pink hair. And I wanted to let you know that in January, so it's a little ways away, but right after the new year, our multi-generational service is going to be Wicked themed. Now that both movies will have come out, there's a lot of good anti-authoritarian content in Wicked. I don't know why we need to talk about that right now in particular, but I thought it would be a good idea. Also, our upcoming multi-generational service, the first Sunday in December, we have multi-generational services every month on the first Sunday of the month. Our multi-generational service on the first Sunday of December, December 7th, is the return of Accotink's Christmas pageant. So those of you who have been here for a while know that Accotink, before my time, before the pandemic, had a Christmas pageant that the children participate in and put on. So we're bringing that back. Big thanks to Reverend Morgan McLean for her work on that, as well as Michelle and the other members of our CYSDC committee, our Children, Youth, and Spiritual Development Committee, for putting that together. That's going to be our multi-generational service in December. And the Saturday before that, we're going to have our Ease into the Season, which is when we decorate our sanctuary for the holidays, which is a lot of fun. I think they have cookies. I've actually never been able to go, but I'm planning to go this year. And I think they're going to have a little bit of a rehearsal, too, for the pageant, although you don't actually even need to rehearse for it. It's that kind of a pageant you can just do in the moment. We're doing a UU version of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So A Christmas Carol is already Unitarian Universalist because Charles Dickens was what? A Unitarian, yes! Thank you. But this is even more Unitarian. This is going to teach us some Unitarian Universalist history through that Christmas carol. So I want to let you know about that. Also, Phil Runge passed away last spring, and we're going to have his memorial service also on that Saturday at 1 p.m. So before the ease into the season, before we decorate for the season, we're going to have that service. But before we even get to that, we have the rest of our services this month. Next Sunday, Reverend Kirk Freeman from Davies Unitarian Universalist Congregation will be here for a pulpit swap that he and I do a few times every church year. And I'll be over at Davies sharing a sermon with them. So I told Pastor Kirk that he didn't need to worry too much about the theme, just bring his best sermon from the last 3 or 4 months. So I really recommend you come next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, actually, Connie is the worship leader helping to put together one of our ensemble services, which are very popular, or should I say, popular, where we have reflections from a few of our members, and people love these services so much. So that'll be the Sunday after Thanksgiving. But before we get to all that, we have today's service. So we're exploring nurturing gratitude this month. And this is where we really sink our teeth in a little more deeply into that question. And we talk about, I'm going to say this again in my sermon, but the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Walker, who was part of the commission that brought us our new UU values, our new shared values, she said the reason that generosity is one of our 6 values rather than gratitude is because if we just soak in the gratitude and we don't then turn it around and ripple it back out, that's a problem, right? That's just self-indulgence. That's just greed. But if we use gratitude as the ground, and from that gratefulness, acknowledging all that we receive from the earth, from the sacred beings of the earth, from other human beings who are also sacred beings of the earth, if we use gratitude as that ground, then it can be the springboard for our generosity and our reciprocal relationships, our relationships of mutuality and interdependence with each other. So that's what I'm going to share more about later in the service. So we've been saying the words from our new shared values, both about love and about generosity, or sometimes interdependence. And we'll get to all of them. You don't have to memorize these. They're very long. I think the fact that they're very long, but they also have one word for each one, means we don't have to memorize them. But we do have to familiarize ourselves with them so that we know what that value is about. So as we light our chalice, please say these words and the words on the next slide with me. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. As an expression of the value of generosity, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared value of generosity.
Good morning. I am Michelle Anderson. I use the pronouns she and her, and I am your Children and Youth Spiritual Development Director. And today I have a story to share with you. It's titled Those Shoes. It's by Maribeth Boltz, and it's illustrated by Noah Z. Jones. I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops, 2 white stripes.
Grandma, I want them. There's no room for one around here, just need.
Grandma says.
And what you need are new boots for winter.
Excellent. Love that, Grandma. Brandon T. comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now. Not me. I was always the fastest before those shoes came along. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonia and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times. In one day, just so he can walk up and down real slow. Next, Alan Jacoby and Terrence each get a pair. Then one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart.
Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy.
Ms. Alfrey, the guidance counselor, says. She brings out a box of shoes and other stuff she has for kids who need things. She helps me find the only shoes that are my size. Velcro. Like the ones my little cousin Marshall wears. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't think any kid ever watched. When I come back to the classroom, Alan Jacoby takes one look at my Miss Alfrey shoes and laughs. And so does Terrence, Brandon T., and everybody else. The only kid not laughing is Antonia Parker. At home, Grandma says,
How kind of Miss Alfred.
I nod and turn my back. I'm not going to cry about any dumb shoes. But when I'm writing my spelling words later, every word looks like the word shoes. And my grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might bust. On Saturday, Grandma says,
Let's check out those shoes you want so much. I got a little bit of money set aside. Might be enough, you'll never know.
At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sees it, she sits down heavy.
Maybe they wrote it wrong.
I say. Grandma shakes her head. Then I remember the thrift store.
What if there's a rich kid who outgrew his or got 2 pairs for Christmas and had to give one of them away?
We ride the bus to the first thrift shop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoes except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift stop. Not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner is the third thrift shop. I see something in the window. Black shoes with 2 white stripes, high tops, perfect shape, $2.50. Those shoes. My heart is pounding hard if I take off my shoes and hitch up my baggy socks.
How exciting.
Grandma says.
What size are they?
I shove my foot into the first shoe, curling my toes to get my heel in.
I don't know, but I think they fit.
Grandma kneels down on the floor and feels for my toes at the end of the shoe.
Oh, Jeremy.
She says.
I can't spend good money on shoes that don't fit.
I pull the other shoe on and try to walk around.
You're okay?
I say, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money, and I squeeze them on and limp to the bus stop. At home, a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and doesn't say a word about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my 2 small shoes.
Sometimes shoes stretch.
I say, Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes don't stretch. I have to wear my Ms. Alfrey's to school instead. One day, during math, I glance at Antonia's shoes. One of them is taped up, and her feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think. Antonia is there, the only kid who didn't laugh at my Ms. Alfrey's shoes. We shoot baskets. A loose piece of tape on Antonia's shoes smacks the concrete every time she jumps. I think, I'm not going to do it. We leap off the swings. I'm not going to do it. We race from one end of the playground to the other.
I'm not gonna do it!
I say.
Do what?
Say again.
Do what?
Antonia says, breathing hard. Grandma calls me in for supper and invites Antonia over too. After supper, she spies my shoes.
How come you don't wear them?
Antonia says. I shrug. My hands are sweaty. I feel her wishing those shoes were hers. That night, I lie awake for a long time thinking about Antonia. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Before I can change my mind, those shoes are in my coat. Snow is beginning to fall as I run across the street to Antonia's apartment. I put the shoes in front of her door, push the doorbell, and run. At school, Antonia is smiling big in her brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at her face and mad when I look at my Ms. Alfrey shoes. But later, when it's time for recess, something happens. Everywhere there is snow,
Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots.
the teacher says. Leave your shoes in the hall. It's then I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots. New black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in line to go to recess, Antonia leans forward and says,
Thanks.
I smile and give her a nudge.
Let's race!
How can I keep from Our reading this morning is a story, a parable, if you will, shared by Robin Wall Kimmerer. When linguist Daniel Everett was learning from a hunter-gatherer community in the Brazilian forest, he observed a hunter that had brought home a sizable kill, too big to be eaten by just one family. Everett asked how he would store the excess. Smoking and drying techniques were well known, and storing was possible. The hunter was puzzled by the question, "Store my meat? Why would I do that?" Instead, he sent out an invitation to a feast, and soon the neighboring communities were gathered around his fire. This seemed inefficient to Everett, who asked again, why didn't the hunter store the meat himself for later? Which is what the economic system in the researcher's home culture would suggest. Store my meat? I store my meat in the belly of my brother, replied the hunter.
I store my meat in the belly of my brother. The hunter shares the gift he's received with the community, trusting that the community is the storehouse. That if the hunter finds himself falling on hard times in the future, others in the community will throw a feast, so to speak, and he will be fed. And more broadly than just food, the hunter trusts that he will be taken care of by the community sharing its gifts with him, just as he has shared his gifts with the community. This is the way gifts function in what anthropologists have named a gift economy, common among hunter-gatherer societies and even small-scale farming communities, which is to say, the way we humans have structured our economic lives for the vast majority of our history. An economy of exchange, on the other hand, is where I pay you for a product, whether an object, a consumable, or a service, and it is understood that the exchange is meant to be equitable, that the product is worth the amount of money paid for it, that the amount of money paid is equal to the value of the product. The exchange is not a gift exchange. No one in the exchange owes any further debt or responsibility toward anyone else. There is effectively no relationship between the two parties. No communal bond is created by the exchange. No collective web is woven. No money changes hands, and no more contact is necessary. We could even say that no contact has happened. The hands don't even touch. It's no different than a computer running a preset program. The people engaged in this kind of exchange, in that moment, cease to be people, cease to be subjects, in effect become two objects, independently acting on each other. Now, I'm making this sound very bad, evil even. Or at least I hope you are picking up on the evil implications in this. But it isn't inherently evil, nor is a gift economy inherently good. They do different things. Sometimes there is a value in making an exchange without deepening communal bonds. You provide a service, I pay for it, end of story. For example, I want to go to the hardware store to buy a hammer and know that no one from the hardware store will come to my house at some unknown point in the future to claim the debt that I've incurred in procuring the hammer, right? On the other hand, have you ever been on the phone with someone, maybe trying to clear up an insurance claim or dispute a bill, and once you get past the maze of automated responses and listen to bad music for 45 minutes at least, and are finally talking with a person, a real live human being, you feel like you're still talking to an automated or automatic system because that person has no power in the system is meant to have no power in the system, is meant to be just another part of the complicated maze designed to get you to give up so they can keep the money, which you might actually owe them, or they might be stealing from you, but it's clear they don't care which is the case. They want the money, and they've designed this maze so that they'll get or keep the money and you will not. Now, whether I get the money or not, it does matter. I don't want to pretend that it doesn't, or minimize the often cruel effects of economic exploitation. Imagine that phone call if you really, really need the service you're asking for or the money that you're disputing over. And also, at the same time, if you're like me, by the time you get to that real live human, what you want most, if you're like me, what I want most is to be treated like a human being. To feel the person on the other end of that line is a member of a shared community of humanity and will show me the basic respect, the common decency of treating me like a human being, not a cog in an automated system, a mere annoyance to the smooth functioning of the machine. And that, in my experience, rarely happens. The person on the other end of the line is likely underpaid, and as I said earlier, has been given no real power or authority, so they're just as stuck as you and I. And the person on the top of the pyramid, the person economically exploiting us, either illegally or with laws backing them up, is far, far away in a tower somewhere with so much money that they can effectively buy politicians to make the laws in their favor or game the legal system to outlast or outplay you so that they get your money one way or another. Has this ever happened to you? You get to that person and they don't treat you like a person. I know it's happened to me. And when it happens to me, I am livid. For context, I don't think I get angry that easily. And I can really only think of a few examples, though, when I've been this angry, this enraged as when this happens. So I've reflected on why. Why do I get so enraged? Even when it's small. Even when the money in question isn't that much, when it doesn't impede my well-being in a significant way, why am I filled with rage, with outrage? It's because there's something about the exchange, and it is an exchange, not an interaction, that is an affront to my basic human dignity. Because in that exchange, I am not treated as a human being, I'm treated as an object, not a subject. An object, a means to an end, a financial resource. The gift economy, the storing of my meat in the belly of my brother, that communal storehouse, and the mercy that community can provide is not present. That bond has been broken. So my human dignity is denied, and I'm reminded how vulnerable I am as a human object in modern society. Reminded that there are relatively few societal structures set up to support the poor or even middle-class person when they fall on hard times, and ample structures to prop up the powerful. The denial of my human dignity is both outrageous and demoralizing, and the breaking of the interdependent bonds of community is terrifying, destabilizing. It's as if I become aware that there's effectively no ground beneath my feet. except the ground that I'm able to make through my own efforts, and in competition with others who are trying to steal that ground beneath me because there's not enough ground to go around, because we owe each other nothing, we are not our brother's keeper. We close our ears to the sounds of our siblings crying out from the ground. There is no meat stored in the bellies of our neighbors, and no responsibility to not cannibalize other human beings for our own benefit. Gratitude is the antidote. Gratitude is the antidote to this worldview becoming the dominant reality. As scientist and member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, Robin Wall Kimmerer writes, "Now gratitude may seem like weak tea given the desperate challenges that lie before us, but it is powerful medicine, much more than a simple thank you. Because giving thanks implies recognition, not only of the gift, but of the giver. When I eat an apple, my gratitude is directed to that wide-armed tree whose tart offspring are now in my mouth, whose life has become my own." We ritualized this last Sunday with our bread and cider communion, taking the corn and the apple in the form of bread and cider into our bodies, their life becoming our own. Kimmerer continues, "Gratitude is founded on the deep knowing that our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings." Let me say that again. Gratitude is founded on the deep knowing that our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings. Kimmerer continues, "If our first response is gratitude, then our second is reciprocity, to give a gift in return." I mentioned earlier that the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Walker, on that commission to bring up our shared values, emphasized that this is why they chose generosity rather than gratitude as one of our primary values, because, and now I'm switching back to the words of Robin Wall Kimmerer, the possession of a gift is coupled with a duty to use it for the benefit of all. The possession of a gift is coupled with the duty to use it for the benefit of all. A thrush is given the gift of song, and so has a responsibility to greet the day with music, which is in turn received as a gift to us as we watch the sky grow pink with dawn. Salmon have the gift of travel, so they accept the duty of carrying food upriver. The stars were given the gift of sparkle, coupled with the responsibility of guiding us at night. Gratitude is founded on the deep knowing that our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings. A mere economic exchange may be useful, even preferable in some discrete circumstances, but we must never forget the abiding truth, the underlying truth, the ground that creates the ground beneath our feet, that makes the fertile soil that supports and nurtures life. That the deep truth is that the earth is a gift economy. The earth is a gift economy. Now, Robin Wall Kimmerer emphasizes this by telling us this. Indigenous story traditions are full of cautionary tales about the failure of gratitude. When people forget to honor the gift, the consequences are always material as well as spiritual. The spring dries up. The corn doesn't grow. The animals do not return. And the legions of offended plants and animals and rivers rise up against the ones who neglected gratitude. And I want to add, not only is this true for the more than human plants and animals and rivers, that will rise up, that are rising up against all of us, against humanity's collective regret. It's also true for the human beings who are the 99%. It's also true of us, who the super wealthy, the trillionaire, and the billionaires have neglected and exploited, forgetting to be grateful for the wealth shared with them. We made you. We made you, motherfuckers. And we can unmake you. We are coming for you. As Tracy Chapman sings, poor people gonna rise up, take their share, get their share. Now, too often we get mad at the person on that telephone, right? And we forget that it's actually the person in the tower. We see that happening right now too. People in the tower like that a whole lot. So last month, I shared that pain and suffering carry the risk that we push pain away, either by pushing it onto other people through cruelty or through indifference. And instead, to protect ourselves from sin, defined not as disobedience to some autocratic deity, but defined as the human ability to cause harm. That's how we're defining sin. To protect ourselves from that sin of reacting to pain by causing more pain, we can choose to use our pain and suffering to grow our empathy and our compassion. In a similar way, greed is a sin that causes harm. And to protect ourselves from the sin of greed, when we receive gifts, we purify those gifts by sharing them, by helping the abundance ripple throughout the web of life, throughout the human community, storing our meat in the belly of our brother. Because that's how we create and sustain the bonds of community, and the bonds of community are the fertile soil that sustain us. The bonds of community are the very ground beneath our feet. I'm going to quote Robin Wall Kimmerer, who I've quoted many times before in other services, so much wisdom that she is sharing with us. I'm going to quote her one more time, reminding us that for most of human history, human culture cultivated covenants of reciprocity, reminding us that for the earth to stay in balance, for the gifts to continue to flow, we must give back in equal measure for what we are given. And this isn't only true about our relationship with the earth, it's also true about our relationships with each other. Human society thrives when greed is held in check so that the gifts are shared, so that the gifts, rather than drying up, can ripple out throughout the human community. One of my favorite UU hymns is the one we sang earlier, Make Channels for the Streams of Love, which reminds us that when we cease to give, we cease to have. Such is the law of love. And I'm not even sure we need that word love there. This is the law. We cease to give, we cease to have. But on second thought, I think the love part is important because it reminds us that we have a choice. The underlying truth is that we live in an interdependent web, a web where our very existence relies on the gifts of other beings, and life can be a loving web when we choose love. When we choose to make channels for the streams of love, when we choose gratitude for the many gifts given to us every day, in every moment really, and choose to respond by sharing the gift, then we're choosing love. And when we choose love, we're choosing to make channels for the streams of love where they may broadly run. And then, and only then, does love have overflowing streams to fill them, every one. May it be so, and may we be among those who make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirit grow. Grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right. Grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right. Please rise now in body and spirit and join in our closing words. As we distinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with these words of David Bombau. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences and beneath all of our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity. Now that we have gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world inspired to share our values. Thank you.